again, being kept in the most inhumane conditions. In fact, over the course of the last year, 6 children, kiddos, at their most vulnerable and desperate, died in the custody of the wealthiest, the most powerful country on the face of the planet, a country which is comprised of immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees from the world over. And this right now is how we are treating the least of us, which is a reflection on who we are and who we will be unless we change course right now. Because it's not just at the Border Patrol station in Clint, it's at Homestead in Florida, where there are 2,600 kids being kept in a POW-style camp where they're not allowed any kind of human interaction with the other kids, including their siblings. There are kids who are in foster care homes that literally God only knows where, because their parents have been deported back to El Salvador, to Honduras, to Guatemala, half a world away, the very countries from which they fled in the first place, trying to bring their kids to safety and to shelter and to refuge. And I've been there when those kids, in these exceptional circumstances, have been reunited with that parent who risked her life for them. And on that child's face is not a big goofy smile, which is what my 8-year-old's face has when I come home off the road. No tears of joy, no spark of recognition, no impatience to tell their parent everything that they've experienced. There is nothing on that face. Absolute vacant expression. I can only imagine it is reflective of the inability to connect with the person with whom you associate the greatest pain that you have felt in your young life. Associate that parent with the perilous 2,000-mile journey that you took. Imagine walking on foot from here to El Paso, Texas, about 2,100 miles, sometimes catching a ride in a bus, very often riding on top of, not inside of a train known as the Beast or La Bestia, surviving every manner of depredation along the way and making it here, and then being incarcerated and separated from your families. That's what those kids are going through right now. But in the face of this inhumanity was our humanity in Peterborough last night. 150 people who themselves are 2,000 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border stood up to be counted at this defining moment of truth for those kids and for this country and for our kids who are counting on us right now, while we still can, to do the right thing. And it is a reminder that at our best, whenever we have faced choices like this one, whenever we have overcome the greatest challenges, we've done it by standing up, by coming out in meetings like these, by marching in the streets, by the civil disobedience that distinguished the civil rights protesters and marchers of the 1950s and the 1960s, literally taking their lives into their own hands, far too often losing their lives, not just for those who look like them, not just for those who are marching, but for the civil rights of every single one of us. 55 years ago, President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed into law the Civil Rights Act. It was introduced by his predecessor, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, but it was really forced by those people in the Birmingham campaign in 1963. And you've seen the images. Some of you may have been down there, in fact, when water hoses were trained on children. Water hoses that could peel bark off that tree right there, directed at kids. And those images shocked the conscience of this country. How else do you explain how a white majority country founded on racism and a system of inequality came together and democratically ensured that we passed and signed into law equal protection, at least in name to begin with, for our fellow Americans, no matter their race or their ethnicity, their creed, or how many generations they've been an American, or whether they've just gotten here the week before. I'm confident that those of you who came out last night, those of you who will come out in the nights coming forward, will form the conscience of this country and ensure that we rewrite our immigration laws in our own image. Never again detain another child. Never separate another family.